Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Mitten Backstage, where I had the great pleasure in talking to the hosts of the Beneath the Beat podcast. I was first a guest on their podcast, and I decided to return the favor by having them on mine. We talk about a lot of different subjects relating to music and creativity and just about life in general. If you enjoyed any part of today's conversation and you want to support podcasts like this, you can head to my Patreon, which is patreon.com/Tracy Snedeker. There you'll find different tiers to get access to other podcasts, video, private streams, and even the ability to use my musical skills and knowledge for lessons, consultations, and studio recording. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode with the Beneath the Beat podcast hosts.
Heck yeah.
Join in.
It's cool.
And yeah. I don't know. I guess it's been weird trying to start these podcasts with the live stream element because I almost want it to like keep flowing naturally.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Now that I've called attention.
Right. We definitely struggle with that too at the beginning. It's like, do we do like an intro? And so we did some intros and then we didn't do some intros and
and now we're like recording intros, but then we're not doing it live yet. So live is going to be a whole separate thing. It's like,
yeah, it's so, and I've seen people who like, they use like a Stream Deck, like an Elgato Stream Deck or some kind of video, controller type thing where they can map like a pre-recorded intro to a button, and then they just have that going when the stream goes live, and then they jump in like after the pre-recorded thing.
That seems like it'd be a better way to do it, but also an expensive way.
Yeah.
An expensive way. And you know what? When we balling on a budget over here, we make it work. We make it work.
Yeah, we got I just found out about Elgato has an app. It's like $8 and you just download drivers to your computer and it like just links your phone as a webcam, and then you can be plugged in or wireless, and it was super easy, and I was like, whoa,
that's sweet.
This changes things.
Yeah, I need to bump up my camera game on all fronts. I need to get a new phone. That's a whole different thing. But I also like don't have an actual camera. So like the only camera that I have, so the highest quality footage that I could possibly have other than my cell phone is my like webcam on my Mac. And so like all my videos are just like meh. But my girlfriend, she is Taylor Dalton. Shout out. Call out the queen. What's up, girl?
Praise be.
Yeah, we're planning on moving in together pretty soon, and she works in video productions. So it's like her thing. She's got a nice camera. She has all the video editing that I know. It's pretty much because I've been like, dude, I don't know what to do, and she just comes over. She's like, this is easy. You're stupid. There.
I still use this. This is cool.
Hey,
one of the old Kodak. Dude, I don't know why. I just like you guys were talking about. It's like, wow, I still have this like on hand. Like it's right down in this cupboard right over here. Why do I have this?
It's still just ready to go, just in case
ready to go. It probably could take some pictures still. So
yeah, when was the last time you took a photo on it?
Dude, high school maybe.
Well, back in 1985.
40 years ago. Back in my day.
I still remember like some of the first YouTube videos I posted was like borrowing my mom's DSLR camera, and like I didn't think of like, oh, how do I play to a track and like try and sync it. It was just like, all right, my amp also can take an 1/8" jack, and I'm gonna play everything out of that and see what happens.
Dude, the first YouTube video that I was ever a part of, oh my gosh, it was horrifying. I was in 7th or 8th grade, and there's just this stupid video called, I think it's called like Cheese, Apples, and Cabbage. And that was
sounds awesome.
It's literally just like a stupid photo montage of me and my friends. Like that's it. Back in what, 2007, 2008.
That, you know, the funny thing about that is like in 2007, I think it was on YouTube for like a second, and then we took it down. Do you guys know what locker boxing is?
No.
That sounds so familiar.
It's basically when you put on hockey equipment, like gloves and a helmet, and you just beat the shit out of each other. We had multiple videos of us like in the field down the street. We recorded all the fights and put them on YouTube. It was bad, dude.
You were like, have to find that.
You're like the first world star.
Dude, I would pay money for that shit to watch someone beat.
I got matched up with my buddy Kyle, and he's a hockey player. But I was the next closest to his height and weight, and he just killed me. It was bad.
Yeah, dude. The only people I've ever fought are my brothers. Those get pretty intense, though. My oldest brother, 7 years older than me, he gave me beef stew all the time. But when I was little, he used to hold me down and crack my toes because he knew I hated my toes being cracked.
Ooh,
you man!
Oh, dude, that's disgusting, and that's odd.
I guess,
that one.
That's so specific way of messing with you.
Yeah. Yep, he knew it. He's a great guy. Right. And he's actually like friends with Desmond Jones, which is really odd because he's not a musician, he's a graphic artist. He's a really, really good graphic artist. But he like moved away he's 7 years older than me. So he moved away when I was like, I don't know, 13. He moved to Minnesota, and then he came back and lived in Kalamazoo. And I find out going to gigs that he's really good friends with Desmond Jones. I was like, what the hell? Small world, man.
Small world, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I have that small world thing at least once every couple weeks. I run into someone that I've like never heard of, and they're like, oh, you know, these guys and these people. And like, we went to there's a lady who, she wanted to book some studio time at Third Coast, and someone had tagged Third Coast in like in her Facebook status, and I shot her a message like, hey, here's some stuff to check out. And then she kind of explained her background, and I was like, how is it that you like, oh, you went to the same church I grew up at, you like know a lot of the same people in the church music scene in Grand Rapids, like part of your band is people that I've played with a lot before. And just like how
like the music world, the music realm in itself is very it's very exclusive, and they're, you know, if you know a person, then they know like 5 other people. It's like, oh, the connections are so easy. They're way easier to make, especially in like, I feel like especially on the west side, you know, I feel like everybody knows everybody over there, which is awesome because it's not necessarily like that on the east side.
Yeah, I meet bits and pieces of the east side through like friends who were in music school, or like I don't know, just occasionally having a gig over on that side.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
well, it's weird how some things, like, because it's not like popularity. I think it's just like some things are like universally known. Some people are universally known. Some people get their name out there better than others. You know, like there's so when I was in college, I studied in Barcelona for my last summer in college. And there was this bar that I went to. It was called Cocoa Vale. And they had a founder sticker in their bar. And I was like, this is wild. And then I ended up like meeting the owner. I was like, hey, that's a dope sticker, dude. Like, I'm from that rough area on the globe. And he like found out that I played trumpet, because no lie, I was being a nerd. I had my trumpet with me. And I ended up like, I was over there in the summertime. So he ended up like hiring me to play the national anthem, the American national anthem in Barcelona on Independence Day. I was like, wow, this is wild. Wild. Never would have thought that would have happened, you know?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's really cool.
Yeah, just those little like conversation starters with strangers. And you're like, how do you know this person or this place?
Yeah. Yeah. So
do they sell founders over there? Like, is that a thing?
The company's owned by, I think, a Spanish company now. Like the overarching company bought the brand, but I think there's still the same, like there's similar ownership and upper management. I don't really know too much, just from what I was told when I'd see an article of like, it's being sold. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, like parent companies and all that kind of stuff. It's so crazy how large companies can get now. Like,
yeah, it's like you try not to like, you know, as I'm getting things, I'm getting a couple videos ready and I'm like wanting to use my own music. And it's like, okay, you know, CD Baby still technically owns it because of distribution. So I got to figure that out. And then even then, you know, like UMG might be just worm its way in there and be like, that's actually our music. You're like, how do you own how?
Yeah. Dude, releasing music, that's something I feel like is a learning curve for a lot of people. I know if I went to try and release an album right now, it would be a huge learning curve for me because pretty much every project that I've been on that is released, I did not release it. Like I went in and recorded it and then someone else did all of that shit, you know? So it's wild. There's so much that goes into it.
Yeah. And there's so much like, it assumes that like every band is like, you know, like the kind of personality that's like super organized and like understands that an album is not just like, oh, it's the studio and then we put it out and then the world loves it. It's like it's months of planning and branding meetings and like it's like I'm you know, with Earth Radio's recent release, we had like I'm glad we're working with I can't remember the name of his group, like the company he works with, or maybe it's his own company, but Paul Jensen, this Muskegoner who plays drums in Tiny Tree. They're like a duo that Addison is the guitar player, and he actually was the guy who engineered Earth Radio's first album. And he's like a dude who'll just build whatever he needs for like an amp or like modifying a guitar. I think he plays like a 9-string guitar that's like doubling 3 of the strings or something.
Odd.
Yeah, it's all the beef in the tone, I guess. But Paul, we recently recruited him for you know, he's been doing already a really good job of like social media audit and like, here's some things you need to like touch up or tweak. And then he's also working with us in Spotify placement, which I'm surprised we can even still do because, you know, we released the album in August and then we, after the fact, we're like, oh, there's a couple like things that got messed up in the chain somehow between like remote mixing and like, you know, passing off some of the duties to other people. And it was like little things we probably could have, you know, glossed over, but we wanted to like put our best foot forward. So the album was re-released in October digitally.
Yeah.
So like to have anyone like have anyone place us on anything or even like, you know, look at our music with, you know, the timeline of like what's new in terms of like placement. I'm happy that it's at least doing something.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's crazy to look at like how content is consumed across many different platforms, like how your album will do on Spotify time wise is totally different than how it might do on YouTube. Like I feel like whenever I put like a video on YouTube, I feel like it lives there for forever. And the goal is not necessarily for someone to be watching it right now, but it's for in the future. If someone finds something else of ours and they go to our channel, then they'll enjoy what's already on there.
Yeah.
It's
longevity
a crazy
of longevity of your audience.
thing.
We were just talking about that too. It's like just
Yeah.
your audience, are they true to you and your music, like across the board? They might not like a couple songs here and there, but like if you can attract them to your YouTube channel, and that still happens with Paddlebots all the time. We haven't been putting a whole lot of stuff out on YouTube lately, but we still get people coming in. Once you create that buzz, then it just kind of snowballs on itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of like, there's this guy who I saw, it's weird with the YouTube algorithm. Sometimes you'll get like, hey, did you see this 3-minute Simpsons clip from 10 years ago? Or, here's this guy you've never heard of. And there's one time where this guy I saw a guy, probably from watching Kayvon Carter's stuff. YouTube was like, oh, here's another dude kind of doing churchy music comedy type skits. And it was a guy who just like with his apartment background or like a Zoom background of like a gospel church setting. He was like, he did like different types of church drummers, different, like the different types of ushers,
right.
And, at the time he only had like, a few thousand views. And I was like, okay, this guy is like he's set up to like have one of these like do well, and
one of these blow up.
Yeah. And I got recommended the church drummer video again. It has like 1.5 million plays.
Dang.
And I'm like, he did it. He did the thing.
There you go.
Keep going.
Dude, it's wild how things can just like catch fire. And that's like TikTok is one of the things that I've been really trying to crack. Like what does really, really well on TikTok? And it's a shame to me to see so many videos on TikTok of people using popular sounds and not adding anything to the video, or they duet the video because they know it's popular and they just sit there like
this is
the
happening.
whole time. Yeah. Like that's the whole video. And it's like I know those things do well, but how do you become that like iconic? Like Lizzo on TikTok now is, Lizzo's huge everywhere now, but Lizzo on TikTok specifically, like my mom, who does not really listen to a whole lot of music, my mom follows Lizzo on TikTok. And I'm like, you know who Lizzo is? She's like, yeah. And she starts like singing, and I'm like, Mom, what the?
Check my
I think that's I think that's huge that your mom's even on TikTok, man. Like,
dude, the only reason I'm on TikTok is because my mom's on TikTok.
Really?
Dude, seriously. I was so
hilarious.
against getting on TikTok, and my mom every single day, I'm telling you, she would send me like 5, 6, 7 videos on TikTok a day. And I was like, fine, Mom, I'll get on TikTok. And now I'm addicted.
Yeah.
It's great.
I feel like as soon as I just joined like a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks. I don't know. December's flying by. It's
dude, yeah.
And everything feels like, oh, it's all March 14 when everything shut down.
Yeah. Yep.
But as soon as I joined, there was some recommended from, it probably was from like accounts that I had linked. So like trying to link up similar contacts and stuff. But there's, I saw a student I used to have at when I was a choir accompanist at Allendale High School for a year, and one of the students in, I can't remember which choir, but I knew, she was into anime, and she would come like with either more fleshed out kind of cosplay stuff, or like, just the hair, just a, some kind of thing that's like anime. And her thing is doing those kind of cosplays, but also with, kind of the lip dub, sometimes song related, sometimes like duetting with another cosplayer doing a scene. And she's got like, 200 some thousand followers.
There you go.
I'm like, she did it. She's figuring it out.
Well, it's even Caleb Elzinga. He puts out like a couple crazy saxophone stuff. I think he put out that video of him playing the Iwi and like starting at the really high register and playing all the way down, or vice versa. And it got like thousands of views. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's seriously, it is wild. I'm trying to crack it. I should check. I posted that video that I posted today of Andy sussing super hard. I posted it on TikTok and I haven't looked at it. So I'm like, I wonder how many views it has.
I was a couple seltzers deep by that point.
Yeah. There was one point where you're like, dude, I had too many seltzers. And I was like, bro, I've been drinking all day. And I was like, we should not put that in there.
Or should we? But even like my girlfriend's brother, like he had let's see if these right here, like the divot fixers, like for golf.
Oh yeah.
He had a video that he put on TikTok of him like fixing a divot and like tagged it. There's like this channel called Divot Porn. I don't know. he got like 500,000 views on it, dude.
Wow.
And the video is like 4 seconds. It's him walking up, sticking this in the ground, and just fixing the divot.
Well, what about, do you guys know that 420 dog face dude? He's the guy who was like longboarding, drinking cranberry juice.
That's one of my favorite videos, though.
Iconic.
Yeah,
and literally
sick.
The fucking dude was just fucking longboarding with some cranberry juice.
It looked like though he was longboarding on like a freeway entrance.
Right.
It looked like he was about to get on that freeway. I was like, all right, that takes some balls, man.
This is true. But now, dude, he has sponsorships now. Like I was on TikTok and I saw like a sponsored ad from him. That was, I don't even remember what it was for, but I was just like, fuck yeah, dude. Make that cheddar, bro.
I saw him, I think it was an Instagram ad with it was for like home security, but it was just like him and Snoop Dogg drinking cranberry juice in lawn chairs looking at the guy installing security.
That's fucking awesome. That's awesome. That is so cool. Well, it's just crazy because there's so much power in that now where you don't know what it is. You might think you know what it is, but you have no fucking clue what it is. And when it blows up, it goes.
Yeah. You could try to calculate, well, Dogface, he did this with the camera and he used this kind of, you know what I mean? It's like you could try to diagnose it, but at the end of the day, it's not. It's got to be the videos that I've seen that like have gone super viral. You hear the backstory. It's like off a whim, like happenstance.
Yeah.
Yep. Like the dude who
climbing in your window. Remember that?
Oh,
like
yeah.
That was.
I don't, to be honest.
The Hide Your Kids guy.
Oh yeah.
Climbing
in your windows, he snatching your people up. Hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your yeah. I tried to convince Haruki one time to do a Paddlebots cover of that song.
Yeah, I said no.
Andy definitely said no. He's like, dude, that song's about rape. That's really bad. I'm like, dude, you're right.
Yeah.
It's so catchy.
So catchy. Well, and I think of the dude, he's on TikTok. All he did was I think he's from Texas, and all he did was with his phone go up and ask people in nice cars like, hey, what do you do for a living? And that's and people would, some people would be like, whoa, and like drive away, and other people would be, like, oh, finance, real estate, and then, it's people It's like he's asking the question we're all thinking, seeing like a
exactly.
dude in a Lambo.
And thinking. Yeah. I wonder what that asshole does.
Yeah.
That's how I usually think.
Yeah, and he's like I saw someone talking with him. I think it was just some YouTube clip from a podcast, and he, like he's doing this, and some of these some of these rich guys are just like, I like your spirit. I want to give you a job in my I'm like, you're getting work off here just from asking them, like,
what do you do?
I like your spirit.
Yeah. Dude, I
love how you just like slap that tone of voice on them too. That's funny. I like your spirit.
Like your spirit.
I made my money in oil.
Have you seen Fred Armisen's comedy special? It's like comedy for drummers or something is the name of the
I have definitely seen that, dude.
I need to.
He does a bit where he like bounces around the country and does like regional dialects, and he gets to Texas, and there's like, between like Fort Worth and Dallas and Austin, they all have kind of their own little version of Texan. And he's just going back like Fort Worth, Dallas, Fort Worth. It's right in the throat. Worth.
That dude is so talented.
So good.
His story. I was watching. Do you guys watch Howard Stern?
I watched clips of Howard Stern.
Dude, Howard Stern is one of the greatest interviewers I've ever seen in my life. He's very good. He's very good interviewer.
He's very ballsy with his interviewing.
Like, very ballsy.
He's like, let's go.
He does not care.
Yeah, he's like, you're in my chair, bitch. Let's go.
Right. He was interviewing Fred Armisen, and Fred was talking about the time he met Prince. And he's like, I went up to him, and he had a party after. He was hosting Saturday Night Live, and he had a party after at his house, and they're all like hanging out, and he looks over, and Prince is just like eating macaroni and cheese by himself. So he goes up to him, and he's like, this is my opportunity. He like goes up to him, he's like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I think you're the greatest. Like, I'm a huge fan. This is Fred Armisen saying this to Prince, and Prince was like, you know what I think is the greatest? This macaroni and cheese. And then just like and then he just walked away.
It's like, that's awesome. Yeah, Prince is full of those stories.
Yeah.
I feel like
all the Charlie Murphy thing, those are all real. Like those all actually happen.
Yeah, or like I read I forget which place publication made the article, but it was an interview with like his personal chef for like the longest time.
Oh wow.
And she had originally gotten hired like somehow like Prince's people just like contacted her and was like, hey, Prince is interested in having you like be his chef. And she was like, what? And they were like, yeah, so, be ready there. We'll call you with, kind of your, you'll kind of get some sort of like, they made it sound like an audition, like, oh, you'll come cook a meal or like something. And then at like 2 a.m. one night, they call her like, hey, Ryan Seacrest is going to come over at 3 and have dinner with Prince. Here's kind of the vibe and like what he eats. Can you prepare it? And she's like, what? Like
at 3 a.m?
Yeah. So like 2, like she gets up, like flies out the door, quick, like putting the menu together in her head, grabbing ingredients, gets to Prince's house, makes the meal. Like they don't, like they acknowledge her, but there's no like, and you got the job. There was just kind of like, wow, that was delicious. Thanks so much. And then like, goes home, probably calms down, falls asleep. And then like, that week they're like, hey, so you're hired and there's another dinner. And then that was like 10 to like 15 years of cooking with them or something.
Oh, those have got to be like the most insane working hours.
It's like he doesn't sleep. And he
he also wants dinner at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
That sounds like some shit that I would do though. But it would be easy. I'd be like, hey, can you like cook me some pizza rolls? I know it's late, but
Hey, dude, can you give me some pizza rolls? Dude.
I know you're like trying to sleep and all, but like it's 3 and
it's 3 and I got like super baked earlier and I just like really want those pizza rolls, man. I got them in my freezer already. You just gotta come pop them in the microwave even. I don't care. It'll be good.
Like, I'll tell you how to use it, but like you gotta come here and
dude, that's one thing I haven't had in a billion is pizza rolls, but that sounds so good.
Dude, I haven't had pizza rolls in forever. It's been, what time is it? 8:35. It's been about 18 hours.
counting each hour.
What time is it's been about 30 minutes. Actually, I'm eating them right now.
Dude,
yeah.
When I got back from Florida, full disclosure, I live with my mom. Okay, well, I live next door to my mom. I used to live with my mom. And when I came back from Florida, I lived with my mom, and she bought like a bag of like 150 pizza rolls. And I ate all of them in like 3 days.
Oh,
my mom was like, "Where did the pizza rolls go?" I'm like, I'm sorry.
You literally had them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner then.
No,
man.
dude, I was, for some reason,
That's
I don't know what it
disgusting.
was. Late at night, I kept getting very hungry and I kept devouring the pizza rolls, man. I mean, it's only like 50 pizza rolls a day. Come on.
Yeah. That's protein.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
There might be a little bit of nutrients in one of those.
There's vitamin C.
Vitamin C in the pizza roll. -2% vitamin C.
Yeah, you lose vitamins.
It just sucks it out of you.
Oh my god. Oh man. Yeah, but I love pizza rolls, dude. I fucking love pizza rolls. They're like my all-time favorite food.
It's nostalgic. I remember those, those weeks where like both my parents working busy. They're like, all right, we went to the store like Sunday or Monday, like here's what you got for the week, like go crazy. And then you open the freezer and it's like, all right, I got pizza rolls and like chicken strips and like just throwing it together.
Back in the day when you could just like eat all that and then you don't feel bad after, like your body doesn't feel terrible. Now it's like I have like a Snickers bar and I feel like I'm gonna pass out and throw up, It's like,
dude,
I miss those days, man.
My thing is
of being able to eat.
My thing's hot food. I used to be able to eat spicy food and like be totally fine, and now there's 2 things that happen. It's one of the 2. It's usually never both. But first one is I get incredibly bad heartburn, like really, really bad heartburn, which never used to happen. And the second one is I just get the shits so bad for the entire next day. It's not just like, oh, wow, those chicken wings are out. Sweet. It's like, nope, the whole next 24 hours, you're going to be on and off.
Miserable.
Yeah,
just
feeling
punished.
like poo-poo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I feel like that happened with me and with beer, because working at Founders for the first year and a half, it's like they couldn't stop giving all the employees all of the beer. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take a break. And then there was a couple months in the summer where I didn't really drink, and then I started working more shifts and tried to like, oh, I'm just gonna have a drink after my shift, and then the next day I'd feel like sort of hungover. I'm like, when did this happen? It's like, is alcohol bad for you?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
It's so much like, I'm really starting to feel it now that I'm almost 30. Like,
yep.
Newsflash, I'm almost 30, guys.
Dude,
28.
I'm 20. Yeah.
You going gray already, Andy?
Dude, I've been going gray for like 3 years.
No, you haven't, dude. Chill out. You're not old.
If you look, if you were like in the same room, you'd see all this gray hair.
Dude, I've been in the same room with you a lot of times.
Not lately. It's COVID, man.
I know, but still.
But so, for instance, Dutcher, you're saying like beer.
Yep.
The other, like last week, we were at one of the bars downtown Plymouth, and they had like outdoor seating still with like fireplaces and stuff. So it's really cool.
Oh yeah.
But they just had the Christmas ale that came out. I think it was it wasn't Founders Christmas ale, was it? It was Shorts. I don't know. Maybe it was Founders. I don't know. All I remember is Christmas ale. That was Bell's.
Bell's. Oh, and, yep, Bell's.
It was so good. And then the next thing I know, I'm like 5 or 6 deep and I'm like toasted. And then the next day was horrific. Like it was so bad. And I'm like, this is new. I've never been like, I've usually been able to put down stuff like this before and like not feel this way. It was like just, it was the worst, man. It's like, well, that's very off-putting.
Yeah, dude, it's wild because I whenever I get hungover, I'm usually very, very hungover, but it's just like the hangovers feel the same, but they happen with way less booze. You know what I mean? It's like if I used to drink 6 beers, the hangover that I had now takes me 3 beers to get. You know what I mean?
Dude, and guess what? It only gets worse, bro.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, so excited.
Yeah, Zach, what are you like? 22?
Yeah, no, I'm actually 17.
I'm 12 years old.
I like it like from the Benchwarmers. I'm 12.
Yeah.
Written in crayon. No, dude, I'm 26, bro. I'm 26.
Oh.
Dude, it's funny because everybody's like, dude, once you turn 25, man, your body starts changing. You'll start gaining weight. And it was like right when I turned 25. Like a month later, I had put on like 15 pounds. I was like, what the hell happened?
Who did
Dude,
this?
yes.
Was this
metabolism
Satan?
starts slowing down? It's a Satan.
Yeah, that's well, and this year for me, it was like it with everything like slowing down. There was that moment of like, you know, there were days where like, oh, I'm actually getting like normal sleep. And I'm like, oh, I'm not like go like every single day and now it's like it's been nice to have that kind of, you know, my body like taking a second to be like, oh, this is like, hey man, I wanted to check in like between all the crazy, like it was so busy. I didn't give you time to, you know, let you know these things are up with what's
Yeah.
And so
I feel like it's like in a normal schedule too, because every year around like this time, like in January, I would get like ridiculously sick.
Really?
Because it's just like so like what you're just saying, Dutcher, you're like just going so, and then finally your body's like, all right, dude, like you need a break, you know? It's like, and I would get like, dude, I would just be out for like a week. It's like done.
Yeah, I thought, you know, you know, there's some people I ran into that are like, yeah, they had COVID, like, you know, January when I like sneezed. And it's like, I don't know about that. But I thought I had a weird, like, you know, like last year, first week of December, I went on tour with Mark Lavengood. We went out to Colorado and back. And then the week and a half, like leading into Christmas, I was super sick. And then I got better like between Christmas and New Year's. And then I got hit again going into the residency that I was doing at West Shore Community College. I got better like the week before I went to NAMM. The week after, got sick for 2 weeks again. And I was just like,
dang, man.
Just trying to do the schedule.
Yeah.
Right. It's brutal. I think it's interesting too. It's like, when somebody gets sick now, how long is that going to be too? Like when somebody gets sick, like how long do you think it's going to take before, you know, beforehand it's like, oh, he's sick, like, you know, like
whatever.
Yeah,
stay home and get better.
Still working.
Yeah. It's not, and like there's always that underlying like, well, I don't want to be around them because they're sick, you know. But like now it's, oh, they're sick, so they got to quarantine for 2 weeks, and then
It's also like, hey, stay away from me, you disgusting. I don't want to be near you. It's seriously, I'm not gonna lie, I freak out about this shit. Like every time I go to the store, and I live in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Where all the hicks live.
Take away my freedoms.
Yeah, seriously, I swear to God, every time I go to the store, I see one person, just one, who's not wearing a mask, like at all. And I'm like, dude,
it's
there
Daryl.
is people. Yeah, it's fucking Daryl or Susan.
Yes.
No, but Daryl or Susan, I know there's somebody watching you at the store. When you walk in, there's somebody saying, are you wearing a mask? Like, if you're not, get out or put one on. Right. I know your ass wore a mask into the store and took it off when you were in there. Why? What is so hard about it, dude? You're here for 20 minutes. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah.
Because it's a pinch on my freedom. My freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free.
Well, I like
a hefty fucking fee.
Well, and I like the argument that, like, if you're yelling about your freedoms at someone, they cannot respond with their freedoms. It's like, it's my right. I don't have to wear a mask. Okay, I don't have to serve you. Get out of my restaurant. Go freedom all over the place. You can't freedom here.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, and that's, I don't know. It's just, I never in my life would have expected masks to become such a political issue. Like, never in my life,
man.
Dude, but these are masks, and this is
I agree with you.
You know, it's like if you do this, go look up the 10 deadliest days in American history. Do it.
It's the past 10 days.
Essentially, there's 9/11 and Pearl Harbor in there, you know.
Yeah,
and then last Wednesday,
and then last Tuesday, and then last Friday. You know, it's like,
and then,
why?
Tomorrow.
It's like, no, this is a fake. You're right, dicks.
Well, and you know, it's like it's someone put it on a podcast I listened to. I don't know if I mentioned it or if I was listening to it when I was on your guys' podcast, but Behind the Bastards. I don't know if I mentioned that one.
I remember you mentioned that one.
Yeah, so they, you know, the host, or is either the host or the guest, they were saying like, yeah, you know, it's basically like a 9/11 is happening every day, but worse. Like the spectacle of 9/11 in terms of, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty and the building falling, like all of that, obviously like different in terms of the presentation. It's not as like spread out, but it's still like the death toll is like, like 3,000 some people a day or something. That's like 3 of 9/11s every day.
Yeah, dude, it's insane. It's unbelievable, and it's incredibly scary, and to think that we still have so much more to go through of this virus, and we're not even able to address so many of the other underlying societal problems that we have, because this virus is happening and everyone is like, if you believe the virus, then that means all of your views are this one way. And if you don't believe in this virus, that means that you are part of this, you know, stupid group of people, and everybody's just fighting all the time. And it's like, listen, I have to believe, like, in my life, partially because I know so many people that believe in stark contrast to things that I believe, that they are good people. They are good people. Not everyone who has differing opinions are bad people. They are just ignorant to how these things harm other people because they don't harm them. So I don't know. It's just, there's so many things that we need to take care of, and we need to make sure that these people who aren't total pieces of shit actually understand the problems that are happening, you know?
Right. And there's also a lack of, like, I think this is tends to be human nature too. It's like a negative characteristic of human nature, but there's a lack of admitting that you're wrong. You know, that takes a bold person to admit, like, you know what, I was wrong. You're correct. But you don't see that as much now, especially with like social media. It's like people, you see it from both sides. People just beat their ideas down and it doesn't matter if they're backed into a corner, you know?
Yeah.
They're just you know, and that's an unfortunate characteristic of a lot of human beings.
Yeah. Well, it's wild
in this case,
because
I mean, it's apparent because it's a very easy thing to do, to wear your mask, and you have all of these people saying, you know, it's like, okay.
yeah. Well, like the crazy thing is that like there's checks and balances in society within interactions with people. There's checks and balances. Like if I come up to a bunch of people who are agreed upon that the earth is round and I'm like, dude, the earth is flat, then all these people are gonna be like, dude, you're fucking wrong. And then that will like force you to reevaluate that situation. Because there's so many people that are saying, no, dude, this is incorrect. Look here. But in the age of social media, now there's so much misinformation that any facts that you feel like you believe, you can find information that supports it and instantly be in touch with a group of people that will support that idea. So it's not only do you not want to be wrong, but it's you are emboldened by other people who believe the same wrongs because you are now entitled to your own set of facts.
Yeah. It's like you get more. It's like, it's weird because I think of like you're getting like, you know, it's like you're building these little micro armies of people that are like, they're trying to wage war on like a, you know, an understood truth of how things are. But it's like they're arming themselves with guns and like getting bullets, but you know, they're firing these guns and it's like these bullets aren't really like, they're doing some things, but it depends on who they're shooting it at. It's a weird, well, and you know, thinking of like just how strange of a time, you know, COVID's made doing, you know, obviously like, you know, the performing aspect of it and the music stuff in public, but even like the back end strategy of like, you know, I had a conversation with the folks at Crooked Tree Creative because we haven't done anything since the shutdown because there hasn't been any like concrete like, okay, maybe we can book this place outside. Like, is the same person going to be the contact? Like, what's happening? Who's taking things seriously? And so, you know, we're looking into next year and it's like where, like, I know I'm going to, once, you know, January hits, I'm going to have to spend like 2 weeks, probably longer, like each day, a chunk of time going over like, here are the places I played in 2019. Let's see who's still there. Let's see who's still open. Let's see, you know, what's going on. And it's like, I don't know if you like, cause you guys haven't really like been, I mean, you're a big group, but you haven't like been doing a ton of stuff other than, you know, remote things or personal projects. I don't know if you've had any of those discussions as a group.
Not really. I mean, I went over because Haruki works at that studio now, so I went over and like we started working on some drum stuff last week, but for some new tunes. But as far as the mainframe to how to release music, that's something that we still gotta discuss because, you know, it's tough. I mean, you couldn't release music in the months leading up to the election. It just like in like the last month, like you could not release any music because it's the election, you know. It would just get lost. So like
I think there was a lot more than that too, you know. It was like not only is it just the election, but there's George Floyd and you know, then there's COVID-19 and there's just so much stuff that's happening where it's like, should we at this point? Should we not? And it's just, I don't know. I think everybody is taking their own route to whether we should or we shouldn't, and navigated their own ways. And I feel like we are trying to do the same. It's just taking us a little bit longer than others.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely not a race, especially this year. Like I've been talking with people who, it's either been their most creative time, like having the extra time, or it's been like they've done everything but pick up their instrument or record anything, or they just like, they don't really know, or they don't feel motivated. Because like, I feel like, people on the outside looking in, I think of like when, Trump became president and everyone was saying to all the comedic writers and comedians like, oh, this is a bit easy 4 years. You got all the material. And like every comedian's just like, no, like we still have to think. We can't just like only react. And the public looking in is like, oh man, this is such a defining moment of our time. Like you have so much you could write about. And it's like, well, not every situation warrants a response from, the same artist doesn't have to respond to everything. It should be like what's motivating. Like some people probably don't want to write a like, oh, it's my quarantine EP, and then it's all lyrics about like, I was inside and I didn't do much, and it's like, but this is, you recorded an album.
That's good. Much. That's good. I'm gonna steal that.
Great tune.
I was inside. I didn't do much.
I just saw.
What are you singing, Coldplay?
Yep.
That's literally the same melody.
I know.
Well, and I saw a video from what's his name? Juan Ariza. He's a great, like, I first found out about him because he used to do like rock and metal covers when he was like a Berkeley student, and now he's into like kind of the pop production side of things, and he's gotten on some recordings that got Grammy nominated this year. But his videos are all like this mix of like, they have a vibe that's like, it's like, I know this is a new song, but it kind of feels nostalgic, or like it has, and like the way he presents with like little, familiar like stuff you'd see it like, oh, there's these emojis, but they're used in a certain way, like not necessarily just smiley faces, but like little gifs and animations and things. But he made a video that was, it just keeps looping. And it was like, I haven't left my house in 3 months, but I think that's okay. Or maybe it's a problem that it's okay. And then he's like, maybe I'll go for a walk. And then it cuts to like several months later. I've been in my house for 3 months.
Does it do like the looping. SpongeBob?
Oh yeah.
3 months later.
3 months. Yeah, and just seeing that, I'm like, yep, that's kind of how it's been feeling. Like,
yeah, dude. Well, for every one of us who is lucky enough to make it through this time, because we can't forget that there's a lot of people who are not gonna be making it through or haven't made it through already. For all of us who are lucky enough to make it through, it's gonna be a crazy time to look back on. How will this change society? I've been thinking for myself, it's like, I no longer feel comfortable around people without a mask on. Like, and that's something that I'm like, I don't know how long that's going to take me to change that, right. Like even I have some really close friends that, we'll do like outdoor social distance hangs every once in a while, like do a bonfire or something. And still I find myself, I'm like, there's 2 people that I hang out with. There's literally 2 people, and still being around those guys are arguably some of the people I trust most in this world. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. Because you never know.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's well, and there's so much of like, I've been really like seeing, the interesting trend of like, thinking of people who make things or involved in like creative pursuits or careers, and it's like, okay, Colbert and Seth Meyers and all these late night hosts all were like, all right, all we got is YouTube, and that's kind of where we start, and then it goes out to the network. So it's like before, it's like they have their network format with the live audience, laugh tracks, the the guests, the whatever, and now it's like, okay, it's a room or a set. And then the guest is usually virtual or pre-recorded in a separate thing. And then like, the even just a little thing like, okay, most people don't really care if Jack Nicholson is sitting physically in the chair, as long as he's just visible. Like most people are like, that's Jack Nicholson. So then it's like, how much is that going to change? Like, just the, like, are people going to spend, because businesses at different levels are like figuring out where they're cutting costs, and it's like, all right, we don't need a giant, like I think of in Grand Haven, one of the businesses, C3, I think it's like Creative Compassion Center or something. It's 3 C's having to do with, or community probably. And it's basically like a bunch of people who went through traditional church, and then they grew up into like, like more left leaning people who were like, we don't want to just hear Christian dogma. We want to have someone talk about civil rights and then have a local band play and then do. So it's like a church format without the religion attached to it. And they used to have an office in like a bigger commercial space, and now it's like their office where they meet like a couple times a month, and then their couple employees work is like one of the offices in Third Coast, which is only slightly bigger than my office.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's huge too, is a lot of businesses are, they're like, should we burn all this money on all these buildings, or should we just like, downsize and have a lot of people work virtually, save a lot of money in the long run.
Dude, well, it's going to be so interesting to see how things emerge from this. Like when things are quote unquote back to normal, like what is that really going to look like? Because I think this has exposed huge opportunities for education. Like, do I think that online schooling is the way? Not for everyone, but for some kids, potentially. And I think that the way that this could have been handled would have been so great. Like if instead of being like, well, we're not going to shut down the schools, it's like we should have planned for the worst scenario, planned for the schools not being open, plan for doing everything online, learn how to do this, teach the teachers how to do this. Because
especially in the summertime.
Yeah. Yep. They have 3 months to learn how to do this. I mean, they closed down in March. So it's like they were learning on the job until, June. And then it's like you guys have like 3 months where you could just go ham, go hard on this, learn how to do this. But I think that that's a huge opportunity now, remote learning and remote working, and I feel like that would make people happier too. Like at least remote working. I know I like working remote.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it's definitely like, I've seen the argument of like, some people, like, oh, remote learning, some people might have a bad home environment, and then that sucks that they're always in that scenario. And they don't, learn as well. And then other times it's, the flip side, like oh, I don't get harassed and bullied constantly being at school. I can just interact with my close friends and just do what I like doing without having to worry about that social nightmare.
Yeah.
And like the kind of like, it's funny to think of back when my sister did an accelerated year of high school where she went to the high school I went to, City High School, and then or Grand Rapids City High School, I guess is the full name. And then like her junior year, she switched to, I can't remember the name of the education company. It felt like a company because it was a hybrid schooling system. They had a building that was like a floor of an office space, and they do like 3 days there. And then, Thursday through Sunday, they'd have like online work. And at the time we were like, oh, this is kind of weird. Like, but I guess, it works. Like she can finish her work way earlier at home than she would just wasting time at school. And that led her to graduate early. But yeah, so there's, that definitely people are like really just ready to have like more kind of control over their environments versus like kind of being like, well, I have to be at this building from 7:30 until 2. It's like,
but it's just really wild. Like I feel like our whole education system needs a revamp. Like we need to be able to use the technologies that we have better.
Well, it's very important with this new administration too. Like Joe Biden's wife has a doctorate in education, but according to a lot of people, it doesn't matter if you have a doctorate. You don't say that you really have a doctorate unless you can cure diseases.
That article was so crazy.
It's like it's insane, man. It's crazy. But she has a doctorate in education, so it's like automatically that's going to take more priority. Which, how the hell does education not take top priority, or at least one of the top priorities? You fix our education system, you fix everything. It's a trickle down effect. Yeah, you might not see it immediately, but you will see it.
Yeah. Like I have a friend in town I went to high school with, and he lives with his girlfriend out in Oregon right now. They just moved out of California, and his girlfriend's originally from Texas, and we were, walking around the Blandford Nature Center, which is like a chunk of property in Grand Rapids that, it has like a little animal hospital. It's got like a small event space for other stuff, but it also has a school that's a 6th grade program that I went to with my friend. And that was the first time where I was like, like this is how all school should be. Cause it was a mix of like, there were days where they would just they're like, we don't really have anything planned. Like, let's just let them do things. Yeah. And then, so like we'd go to lunch, and then the next time we'd hear from them, be like, all right, buses are here. And we're like, what? Wait a minute. And dope. Like, we would have days where we would like, cause it was a short walk, like maybe 10 minutes, from the school to the nature center. And we would be, part of our lessons and other stuff that we would prepare as part of the school program, since the nature center had a little bit more room than the building had at the time for the school, we would go to the nature center. So there'd be times where we were just unsupervised, like walking these trails to like, and sometimes people would just like disappear for an hour or two, but they at least were like, you know what, we've set the standard, we're not going to hold your hand, like you got to show up here, we'll know if you're gone, there's only 60 of you, like
yeah.
But like I think that's so important, because right now the system that we currently have is a system of numbers. That's what standardized tests are. So school districts feel they have to teach to the numbers in order to get funding. So everything's put around these standardized tests. So kids have to sit in a classroom for 6-7 hours a day, every day. It's like draining. It's soul sucking. It's like, but doing stuff like that sparks curiosity. Like if you can spark curiosity in a kid, it's game over. It's like they will learn if they are curious.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's just one thing for me that I like. I'm hopping on the TikTok trend that, well, it's the X for me. No, that's like what it is though. It's like how no, but it's like how we have a certain number of facts that we are supposed to have memorized by the time we finish school. And instead of thinking like, supposedly we go to school so we can learn how to be a contributing member of society, right? So why not take something that you're interested in as a young kid that will eventually contribute to society and nurture that, nurture that thing and let them explore those things, because when they're exploring something that they're interested in, I don't give a fuck if you know long division. I don't care. Like you'll figure it out and you'll be great at this thing that you love, and that will make society better,
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, like, the reason why I brought up my friend's girlfriend being from Texas is that as me and my friend are reminiscing of like, yeah, that's where we had these things called magic spots. And it was like, you would just go into the woods and like journal for an hour, and it didn't matter like what time of year it was. Like you got time to journal if you wanted to, or you could just like hang back and like, lessons weren't just like, all right, here's different types of owls. It'd be like, all right, we got an owl in the animal hospital. Let's go look at it. Or like, like, oh, you can see some owls. Like we found some on the trails. Let's go cross country skiing. And we've learned cross country skiing and like, do a 2-mile loop and just see a bunch of nature. And then that'd be like half the day. And
cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so
That's
cool.
really cool. That's the way. And obviously there needs to be some room for, creating or teaching logic.
Yeah.
Teaching, and that's what mathematics provides, that sense of problem solving and stuff like that. But you can do that in ways that you can still do that while doing activities like that. You don't necessarily just need to be sitting in front of a book for 8 hours.
Yeah, and we'd have like paired kind of lessons with like I was joking about the way that they taught us economics was like it was a mixture of this book called Bosconomics, and there's this character like called Bosco, and it followed him from literal like caveman bartering trading days to like the evolution of society into like, oh, well, these people formed this and the way they did things, that's called like socialism, and this is capitalism, and this is but then we'd also get a very small like hands-on thing of taking care of a chicken coop, and the eggs would be gathered by like an area farmer who like that those were technically his chickens, but we would still like rotate even during like breaks, like, oh, it's Christmas break, all right, you're doing these couple days, you're doing these couple days. Like everyone knew how to like work that type of thing, and then they would explain like, yeah, they take the eggs and sell them for this much and the money goes here. It's like just giving us a hands-on like, that egg you just got is going to this person's breakfast.
It's just like that makes me as a kid just way more curious. That's like you're answering a question it sounds like a kid would ask.
Well, it's like the difference between like static learning and engaged learning. Like when there's something there that you can touch, like you have to be engaged. They're like, all right, you got to take care of this chicken or else this thing is going to die. Like this is depending on its life. And then you learn math through that, like that's the way, instead of just sitting there and, and there are merits to things that happen in school. I don't want it to sound like I'm just like dogging all of education, because, there are some good things about it. But, I just think the fact that we are supposedly as advanced of a society as we supposedly are, it's to not have our education system further down the line. It just seems like our education system is archaic,
Well, yeah, it's again, I don't want to get too like political or anything like that, but it's what happens when you have the government get too involved. They need to see numbers. They need to see statistics. What's the easiest way to do that? You just take tests. Test. That's like what you do. And then, so they have to accommodate their entire curriculum. A teacher has to accommodate their entire curriculum around these stupid tests. And I don't know about you guys, but as me as a kid, I was a bad test taker. I was just a bad test. I wasn't good at taking tests. Like, and then you have like these giant important tests like the ACT and, all of that stuff. It's like, maybe that's not what you're meant to do as a kid. That's why I like what, a lot of like Western Europe, especially like Switzerland. What's another? I think like Sweden maybe too. I know Switzerland for sure, but like their education system is not, the model underneath is not teach to the test, it's teach to understand.
Yeah.
It's like you're teaching your students to understand. You're not teaching your students to memorize facts, which is just a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding something is so different than I could recite the Pythagorean theorem to you. I don't know why that's applicable to anything though. I don't understand it. I could just recite it to you. A squared plus B squared equals C squared,
Right.
but like, why is that a thing?
Yeah.
Because you want to find the hypotenuse, bro.
Yeah. Why do I want to find a hypotenuse then?
It's all a metaphor for life, man.
Yeah. Get with the times, dude. You got to think outside the box, bro.
I'm hypotenuse right now.
Oh my God. That was great.
I'm hypotenuse right now.
Oh my God.
I'm high on pot news.
Oh my God.
Dude, that's awesome, man. That's so funny. Yeah, but like that's always been my thing is, and that's why I think it's good to, if you're a music educator in particular, you don't necessarily have there's not a test for that in the standardized. There's not a standardized test, so you have a little bit more wiggle room, but they're already preset standards in. I had to learn all of this, getting my education degree. It's like there are preset standards already set for you. There's a Michigan curriculum for music. You don't necessarily have to follow it, but the curriculum's already set,
Yeah. Well, you said something earlier about like teaching you the numbers because that's where funding comes from, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really interesting because a lot of people don't think about taxes the same way, when in reality, if you look at the history of where taxes came from, it is the same. It's about numbers. And that's why businesses have a completely different view about taxes and trying to pay the least amount of taxes. And that's why the lower and middle class always get fucked over from taxes. And it's because these big businesses and these people who are rich, like, they know the tax laws and their goal is to keep as much money as possible. Whereas the government, if they don't use all of the money, then they will get smaller budgets in the following years. So they need to spend all of their money so that way they can make more money, essentially. And since these businesses and these corporations have loopholes that they are legally allowed to use, like if you have an S corporation and you can say, well, I just bought a new company car, or, like all the stuff that your company technically owns, but it's these rich people that own it. So they don't have to pay taxes on it. So since the rich people who have all the money are exploiting these laws, which is totally legal, it's totally legal for them to do that. And they're incentivized to do that. That's why the lower and middle classes keep getting fucked over with taxes. And it's a numbers game. The government wants to keep these big departments. These people in government want to keep making as much money as they're making. And, it's a numbers thing. We need to look at necessities and where are people's money, and then going back to education, where are their skills going to be utilized the best? Well,
that also like goes back to that trickles down too, because property taxes, if you go to like middle and lower income suburbs, like property taxes are way lower. The districts get a cut of that property tax. I know the school district that I work in, there's a wide variety of, there's high income, there's very low income, and a lot of our district, there's a whole section of our district that is all trailer parks, and there's no property taxes on trailer parks. So there's no money coming in from there. So there's districts that are crippled because of that because they're not getting as much tax money from the get-go. So if you don't have as much tax money from the get-go, you don't have a solid basis to create a good learning environment where kids can like be productive and kick butt on these tests. It's a crazy trickle down system. It's very complex, but at the same time, it's if we had some bipartisan agreement on some things, I think it would be a very easy fix over time.
Yeah. I'm going to be totally honest with this whole like bipartisan thing. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I think it's the stupidest fucking thing ever. Like,
what do you mean? Like not being bipartisan?
No, like, well, yeah. So like
you're saying the idea of
the idea of the two-party system. It's like ridiculous to me. It's like absolutely mind-blowing that we are like, well, that's in my opinion. I'm gonna go on a minor political rant, but this is totally how Donald Trump got elected. This is not a good business person. He is not truly conservative. He is not. He just says what he knows these people want to fucking hear. And he makes everyone think that he makes all these low income people in the country believe that he's trying to work for them. When in reality, it's like, listen, nobody's gonna make these jobs appear out of nowhere. We have technology that's making these go away. That's like saying that, like, oh, we now have the wheel. Oh, well, let's use this boxy ass fucking rock that we were using as a wheel before. That'll still do. It's like, no, that's not what's gonna happen. But he goes and he fucking panders to these people. He says exactly what they want to fucking hear, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. Because they don't understand. It's like, no, dude. Sorry. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah.
But
well, I was gonna like the one addition. I was just thinking, like, on his way out, he's like, I gotta fight for, I gotta fight for you. It's just, the fraud it affects you. It's fraud. And then you look at his website. It's like, donate to me, but all donations under 8,000 just go to me. They don't go to the legal fund. And it's like, oh, so you're just getting one last little chunk of change before you got to go. Like, apparently he wants to go to Florida, and all his neighbors are like, don't come here. They're like, we don't want you here. Because apparently he there's like some, decades ago, he basically like signed away his right to live on that property to like get people to come live in the club, and they're like, we don't want you here. You're just going to bring negative attention to our neighborhood.
He's going to have to live in Canada.
He's going to have to live in, like, I don't know, Dubai or something.
Shit. They're not
Trump
Dubai in there.
I don't know. Those sultans would want him.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. They'll probably like him.
Oil barons.
Yeah.
There's that picture of him with like the Saudi Arabian government with that big orb that I still don't know what that was for. It was just like a big glowing orb, and you're like, is this the Legion of Doom? Like, what happened?
It's the Illuminati, man.
Yeah. It's like,
honestly though,
they're actually illuminated.
Dude, what I just don't believe is how there's a group of people who like believe in QAnon.
Mm-hmm.
And then also believe that, like, I don't know, just like also believe that Donald Trump is for them. It's like, how can you listen
blue
to
collar
all
billionaire?
Yeah. It's like, how can you listen to all of the shit that he has said? Listen to all of these high level Republicans who have came out and spoken against him. Like, you're going to tell me that fucking Mad Dog Mattis is a Democrat? You're going to tell me that shit.
He's a commie government.
Yeah.
Well, and like, that's why I've been enjoying, as much as it has been like some of those episodes, you're like, this person was real and this is how they affected the world negatively. Listening to Behind the Bastards, like, there's a couple episodes on Roy Cohn. There's also been a couple documentaries, I guess, on Netflix that have been made about him. And Roy Cohn was like, this dude, he's a dude that like Trump still wants in his life, but he only has Giuliani, and then Giuliani's not working. Like Roy Cohn was like, I'm the lawyer to the mafia during the time where the mafia controlled the unions. So I'm the guy that can get you the concrete at the best price to build your buildings. And that's how Trump got his building built. And then,
oh man.
And Roy Cohn was also like, you know, a very outspokenly, like, you know, very openly gay person, and used his wealth to kind of distance himself from ever having to like be a part of that community in his own perception. So he, you know, he was with he was like a fan of like Joe McCarthy's like Red Scare, and also the I guess there was the Lavender Scare, where I didn't realize it was 20% of the workforce had been like basically interrogated, like, hey, you know, are you homosexual? Because, you know, if you are, like, we're a Christian nation and you're gonna lose your job, and like all these things could be affected. But you think like a fifth of every working person like, or a fifth of the working population had to go through these like random interrogations, and like
wow,
this,
man.
and that just after like everyone being blacklisted, and you know, the Red Scare with communism, and you know, it's still kind of lingers today, and in parts of like how people think about the world. And it's so weird to see like what people will do in as a way of self-preservation, but also as like a lack of understanding what they're supporting. And they don't like they're not seeing the big picture. They're like, well, if I align myself with, you know, like the police, I won't get arrested. It's like, no.
Definitely not how it works, bro.
You are still just as likely, like, unless you're like a wealthy person who's able to, you know, recruit the services of the police to your benefit, it's you're still in the line of fire. And it's crazy how just the context of everything, of like people, you know, Trump's been around for so long that you're like, this dude is he's just alive, and he's just done so many things that you're like, how has nobody's pumped the brakes? Because he's like, he owes too much money to like be thrown in prison because people want their money, but he's historically not paying people back. So it's like, what do you this is just a no-win situation until like he's dead, and then, you know, they're gonna come after Ivanka, and he's probably gonna have some thing written in a clause for like, oh, Donald Jr. gets control of the company, and Ivanka gets placed in this like this frozen tank, and she'll live forever, and
she'll be sent out to Pluto.
Yeah, she'll colonize Mars.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure she's a robot anyway. So
yeah, no, it's just weird. There's this monk. Oh, I forget what his name is.
Thelonious Monk.
Yeah, that one. No, but he was talking about. He used this really great story. He's like, okay, so let's say that the three of us are all sitting together having a conversation in person in the real. So we're having that conversation, and let's say Andy didn't brush his teeth for 2 weeks beforehand, and Dutcher, you and I are like, damn, bro, your breath stank. Like, damn, that's
good thing you guys aren't in this room then.
It's actually been 3 weeks.
But but Andy, to himself, most of the time he's not sitting there like, damn, dude, my breath fucking stank, right? And he used that analogy for how we as people like navigate the world. Like, so often we are so quick to tell somebody else that they are wrong, but we don't use our nose and look at what we are doing wrong. You know what I mean?
That's what I was saying earlier, man.
Yeah.
So I was saying earlier, it's tough to, you know, it's tough for human beings to say that they're wrong about something. It's really hard.
Humility.
It's a pride thing. You know, it's a pride thing. But you grow more. Like, if you can accept the idea that you grow more, it's the I don't know who owns the quote, but I think it was so Socrates, and he's saying the first step to wisdom is knowing that you know nothing, or admitting that you know nothing. It's like, if you can do that, then you can learn. If you can't do that, then you can't learn, and you're stuck.
Yeah. Well, I
And
wonder
that
how tied
sucks.
in. I wonder how tied in that is to our fear of failure.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the idea of eliminating your ego.
Yeah.
Like if you can completely, and that's what in like the Buddhist religion in particular talks about, just eliminating your ego completely. And if you can do that, then there's nothing that you fight with.
Yeah. You'd also just take DMT and that'd probably help you eliminate your ego.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I just listened to Joe Rogan. I hear him talk about it.
Experience
Alpha
ego
brain.
death. Yeah. But like, I don't even know. I already said what I was trying to say.
No, it's true though. It's true though. I feel like we need to not be so egocentric. We need to be able to say, no, I'm wrong. You are right. We need to be able to say, I still have things to learn. That's like, I never want to get to the point in my life where someone tells me something and I disagree so much that I won't even investigate further. I'm just because I feel like that's when you really learn. That's when you're having a conversation with somebody and they can bring points that are thought-provoking so that I will do my own research. That's how you change my opinion. If you want to change my opinion, make me think enough about it to do my own research. That's the way to do it,
Right. Yeah. And I think that's for everybody too. Like, if I'm talking to a person that I 100% think they're wrong, and I just very much disagree with, I would like to understand why, first of all, what their sources are. Second of all, why do they think that way? And talking with somebody in an unemotional way too, that sparks way more. You'll be able to they'll listen to you more, I should say. If you can keep, and that's the thing about eliminating your ego. It's like, if you can keep the emotions at the door, if you do get in that brutal conversation with your your family members about whatever, if you can keep your cool, chances are they might listen to you, you know what I mean? As opposed to you just losing your mind, becoming an emotional thing.
Well, this is a lesson I personally learned from Haruki, because him and I were talking, and he has sometimes he can get very intense when he's conveying his points, but he's oftentimes, when you're talking to him and he's trying to convey a conflicting opinion or a conflicting point, he articulates it in such a calm way where it's like, I don't know, it's talking with Haruki and Dominic Berenga. Those two guys have made me so much better, I feel like, at articulating my points, because they don't let shit fly. If there's something that you said that you're just like, they'll know what I mean. It's like, no, you have to actually say what you mean. You have to say it in a calm way so that people can understand what you're trying to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a thing that we don't see a lot, even on, that's what are the things that people click on YouTube? It's like, they see the arguments, they see like the talk shows where the person walks out. It's like, oh, I'm fucking watching that. You know what I mean?
Clickbait.
That's the stuff that people watch. If that's just like constantly in your face, and you see people on social media just blowing up other people all the time, it's a very negative thing.
Yeah. So then, how do we get away from it? How do we get away from it? How?
Yeah,
that's the question.
Yeah, and it's so like there's times where you see, like, I don't know, I think of like people I don't follow, but I've heard about, like the Ace family. They're like this big brand now, and it started with like, oh, it's a family vlog channel, and it was like, I think the appeal was it was more relatable, like, oh, it's a family, it's a young couple, they got, you know, young kids, they're just trying to get through life, they happen to be, you know, making content and doing stuff. And now it's like, you know, they're very like they had a video that got, you know, it went viral, and it's kind of a meme of like they were complaining about you know, they just bought a giant house, giant property, and they were complaining that the floors weren't done. And it's like the floors in your like thing that could fit a neighborhood into like aren't done because like you have, you know, it's a lot of surface area. And then you know, they're like, well, we just want to move into this house, and you're thinking like, oh, maybe this is because they went from rags to riches, and this is like they came up, and this is the new house. And then you go to their old house, and it's like slightly smaller. It's like another multi-mansion, and the only reason why they're moving is because they accidentally doxed themselves by doing a vlog and being like, this is our house, and then like, here's the outside with the address, and here's a drone shot with the address, and here's this with the surrounding. It's like they doxed themselves, and they bought a new, more expensive mansion, and they're complaining to their fans like, don't you hate it when your mansion floors are done? And then like right before it being like, by the way, if you're an Ace family, if you're part of the Ace family, show us you got your Ace Family shirt on. If you need to get a shirt while watching Ace Family, go to Ace Family. They're like doing merch plugs before they talk about yeah, and it's
wouldn't you hate it when your mansion doesn't have its floors done yet?
Well, it's crazy because I feel like it's a lot easier to fall into that trap than a lot of us think, you know, because like that's a skill that we all, you know, in the creative space have to try and figure out in order to keep creating and to be able to have this fund our creative process and fund our lives. We have to get better at selling merch and doing that stuff. And then you see people who really have mastered it, and you're like, man, they're douchey as hell. You know, so it's like, how do we get to that point where we have mastered that and we stay humble and we're not douchey, you know?
Yeah, like the 2-year saga of Logan Paul is so fascinating in terms of how he's somehow flipped his public perception from, I'm the kid who like insulted an entire culture and then filmed a dead body for my child audience, and then like, you know, put it in the thumbnail, not like, oh, we did it and like it was a scary moment and it was weird that you put a clip of it. It was like, there's the dead body in the thumbnail. And then to go from that to like, you know, he boosted the Pokemon market with a giant purchase. So all eyes are on him as like, oh, nostalgia. He likes Pokemon. Oh, I like Pokemon. And now, and he's fighting like these MMA fights to like be like, oh, he's disciplined now, and he's got like a podcast, and he's like, he's grown up. I'm like, 2 years ago, he was in the woods filming dead bodies. And now he's like, he's Zen Pokemon master. Like, no, he's just learned to be like, well, if I only talk on camera and don't and run my ideas by at least one other person, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Who's this person again?
Logan Paul.
Who is that?
He's you know, basically if a, you know, he was like part of a Disney come up with his brother Jake Paul. They both get in like, you know, they make vlog content and then like random like merch beefs. Like one year they did they just each made Christmas songs plugging their merch, and Jake Paul's song was literally just called Buy That Merch. And all the lyrics are like, God, hey, you suck if you don't have my backpack because your backpack sucks and my backpack's cool. Do you want to be cool? Buy my backpack. Next verse.
$1 million later. Oh,
yeah,
God.
it's like, okay, he's making money off of this stupid song that's gone viral, whether it's cringe or not. And then he's made money off the stupid music video that he produced in his house. And then he made money off of the stupid people buying his merch out of like, you know, some people are actual fans and other people don't realize like how toxic he is. And, you know, and he's trying to do like, he did a fake, you know, he's got a fake school called Edfluence where he like, you know, there's a small buy-in to like get access, and then each lesson is just like, more expensive, and he's banking on, his young fans being like, Mom, Jake Paul says I don't have to go to school and I could learn how to do YouTube if I just watch his videos. And then they're like, I don't know what YouTube is. Plugs in their card. Next thing she knows, there's like a $2,000 like bill from this website because he's just clicked on all the courses and auto charged it to her card. And so
I just went on his YouTube channel and it just like screams douche.
Yeah. What was it? Jake Paul? It was one of the Paul guys that just challenged Conor McGregor to a fight.
Yeah, that was Jake.
Yeah,
because he knocked out a basketball player.
Yeah, it's like, dude, I would pay money to watch that fight. Conor would whoop his ass,
and that's what he wants, and that's what's even worse.
Yeah,
he's still gonna make like $10 million off if the fight would go through. I'd be like, can you just have Conor McGregor beat him up, like where Conor just shows up at his house with his phone on Instagram Live and just beats him?
Yes.
Like and that Conor would definitely do that shit.
Yeah, and that's like the Floyd Mayweather Conor McGregor fight. It's like Floyd won, but they both like Floyd made $80 million and Conor McGregor made like $50 million. You know what I mean? It's like,
oh yeah,
they both won.
Nobody lost.
Nobody lost.
Yeah.
Although that last series of fights, I didn't watch them, but the only things I did see were, I did see the Jake Paul knocking out that basketball player, and then like a couple of the like, oh, it's Mike Tyson and the other guy, I can't remember his name, and they're legends, but I can't remember the other guy's name. And but like Snoop Dogg being commentary and just like just that reminder of like, you just put Snoop Dogg in front of something and he's gonna make it great.
Dude,
right.
Really though,
because Snoop Dogg is like, he's cool,
dude. He's amazing.
He's like a down to earth human. Well, I mean, seems like a really cool guy.
Yeah.
It's so funny that he like, he got famous doing like, hip hop and like the gang related, like rapping about just that lifestyle, and now he's like brand friendly and doing like commercials for like, it doesn't matter if it's like, oh, he's got his weed company and he did things in gangster rap, but moms will still be like, that's Snoop Dogg if it's like a toy or like,
well, yeah,
he somehow endeared himself to everyone.
Yeah.
He also like tied himself with he did some stuff with Martha Stewart too.
Yeah,
it's like
him and Martha are tight. Dude, have you guys seen, was it the roast of Justin Bieber?
I know what you're gonna say. Yep, Justin Bieber.
I think it was Martha Stewart at that roast?
Yeah.
And
Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, Snoop was, but I think it was that roast. They were talking, it was Martha, she was like talking about Justin Bieber going to prison. She's like, so you're gonna need a shank. I made mine out of toothbrush. And it's hilarious. She's hilarious.
I loved whoever like came up and was like, oh yeah, we got, like all these like gangster rappers and like, and Martha Stewart's the one that's been to jail the most. All of them.
Yeah.
Dude, that one was hilarious. And Justin Bieber, when he came on the mic at the end, he's like, so what do you get when you give a teenager $250 million? And his comeback, he's like, a bunch of has-beens calling you a lesbian for 2 hours. I'm like, oh, that's so good.
Somebody wrote that for him, but it's funny.
Did you guys watch the roast of Donald Trump?
I've seen clips because I remember like Seth MacFarlane being the host and other people just tearing into him.
Yeah, there's this clip. I saw this while he was president, so this just like, I don't know why this like shocked me, but he's like up at the end, he's like talking some mad shit, and then he talks about his bank account and he goes, $10 billion fucking dollars. And I'm like, we just voted for this guy to be fucking president. Talking about how he has $10 billion fucking dollars. Like, come on.
So he's a success. He's the most of the best, and etc.
Yeah. So I work with
the most of the best. So successful.
Yeah. So I work with bankruptcy attorneys, and I mean I get a whole mix of the political spectrum, right? So I don't obviously with my like job don't normally talk about politics, but I have this one guy who's obviously a bankruptcy attorney. He's fucking hilarious. He hates Donald Trump, like hates Donald Trump. And he's like, you guys think this guy's a good businessman? He filed bankruptcy 7 times. I'm like, this is true. How do people not realize this? Do you know what filing bankruptcy is? Means you can't pay your debts, man. Can't pay your debts. Means you're not good at business.
Yeah, you don't have any assets or profit to like pay any debt.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, another nod to like Roy Cohn's lifestyle. He didn't pay taxes and like died owing like $3 million to the IRS in like the 80s or something.
Oh my God.
And so the way he still lived super lavishly, he's that kind of dude that would like, you know, he's at a restaurant and somebody's like, oh, we don't have that booth open for you, like you got to sit at a table, and then Roy would go sit at the booth and call over like the Duke and Duchess of whatever country he was like, you know, schmoozing that day, and then they would have this big like spread of food and drinks, and then he would just leave. And I'm like, that's what Donald Trump wants to do. He just wants people to think that they like him enough to just pay all of his things. And that's how Roy lived. Like, you know, anything that was, you know, attached to his person, it wasn't like, oh, he bought that car. It's like, now the mafia bought that car. Oh, he owns that house. No, that's the property of, you know, this person. And he just happens to let Roy stay there. Like, just like even like Barbara Walters was like his fake girlfriend for like publicity, even though everyone who knew him was like, yeah, he's totally gay. Like he's hiring young men to sleep with almost daily. And you're like, how is this guy a real person? And then how is he's the guy who he mentored Trump and Roger Stone, like two just very distinct people. He's like, I will extend my reach from the beyond into these demons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Into these ghouls that'll just hang around for another 4 decades.
The douche sensei.
The douche sensei.
Yeah, it's equal parts like, I didn't know that, and also I wish I hadn't learned that.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you know, one thing that I don't know why that just like put this in my head, but I feel like we need to do a better job societally of teaching financial literacy in schools. You know, like we do not teach financial literacy at all. And if you truly want people to pull themselves out of poverty, you need to teach financial literacy, you know,
from a young age. Yeah, absolutely. That should be a part of math.
Yeah. Well, like I'm not even talking like just the numbers. I'm talking about like learn how money works. Learn how money works. So that way you are not dependent long-term on your income to sustain a lifestyle that you would like to live long-term. You know what I mean? It's like we all think of like, well, I need to do this so that I can get a good job and so I can make a lot of money. But in reality, you can make a lot of money, not be financially literate, and struggle with money because you don't know how to manage it and you haven't set your assets up correctly.
Right.
You know, and that's something that we don't teach at any level of education unless you're going to be like a financial advisor.
Yeah. And I've learned a lot. And that's when, you know, I've learned a lot from my financial advisor. So, man, if they taught this stuff in the schools, like We'd have a lot.
Your ass would be out of the job.
Well, we'd have a lot less bubbles that we're about to pop. We would have less. Like, if you think about the housing crisis that happened in 2008, you think about the student loan debt that's going to pop soon too. Like, people would be able to manage paying for things. People wouldn't have to take out massive loans. Well, the student loan thing is a whole different, that's a whole separate thing. But it's people would be less inclined to be in debt because they manage their money correctly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like a cash flow problem, in my opinion. We don't teach how cash actually flows. We tell people that there's, sorry to just go down a financial rabbit hole, but
here we go again.
Here we go. Andy knows. He hears me bitch about it all the time. No, but we teach people that the only way that they can have an income is from having a job. And in reality, this is purely my opinion, but oftentimes the security of your job is totally a facade. It's totally a facade because a friend of mine, so I have my own business right now. Like, I'm working for myself doing marketing for bankruptcy attorneys, right? So a friend of mine, a lot of what I do is on Facebook and Facebook ads and things like that. So a friend of mine asked me, he's like, well, what happens if Facebook closes? Facebook stops being an app, or people stop using Facebook. And I'm like, well, what happens if Walmart closes? What happens if McDonald's closes? What happens if Sam's Club closes? What happens if your place of business closes? Because that's a real thing. And when I'm in control of what I'm doing, then I have different ways that I can go. But if I'm working for somebody else, then I am at the mercy of whatever they decide for their business. Yep. They could decide that they want to sell their business to somebody who wants to cut my whole department, which is a good decision for them. And guess what? My job that I thought was secure is now gone. And now because I had set up that was how I was going to make money. That was the only way that I had set up to make money. Now I'm totally fucked, and we don't teach people. We teach people that that's the only way. That's the only way that you can have the nice house that you want, that you can not worry about providing for your family. When in reality, that's bullshit. We need to teach financial literacy. We need to teach people how to invest, invest in assets that they are actually interested in and that will provide cash flow for them. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk for a third time this
third TED Talk.
You're welcome.
Third TED Talk.
Yeah. Well, and on that note too, like I scheduled the Zoom for 2 hours and we're getting close. I don't know what will happen, but I definitely will have you guys back, and it's always
thanks for having us. Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, for real. Thank you.
Yeah, where I know it's in the title, like the name of the podcast, but where can people find? Is it just everywhere? Is it only on certain platforms? Like
everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Everywhere. YouTube, Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Instagram. We're on TikTok. Let's go. Beneath the Beat.
We need to be more active on TikTok, but we are.
Hey, we posted on TikTok today.
Oh,
active.
Activity, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I mean, I need to be more active on TikTok.
TikTok wastes way too much of my time. I'm way too active. Shout out Hannah Bread Talk. I spend a lot of time watching you make bread.
Hey, it's bread is great.
It's such a good channel. It is such a good channel.
Yeah. Well, and for those who are listening either now or in the future, if you like what you hear for the Mitten Backstage, you can go to patreon.com/Tracy Snedeker, find all the details there. You can type in my name pretty much on most platforms. I'm there, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the things. But yeah, thanks for coming on and having a great discussion.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, man.
I feel like it flows really nicely with you, dude. We've had multiple great discussions already, so
For real.
Yeah.
I have to add one thing, people. You got to go to Earth Radio's merch and buy a Path to Dutchie mask.
Yeah.
Do it.
They're 15% off right now. Go
Go do it.
do it.
Sounds like Zach bought some for Christmas.
No.
I'm just telling people.